supervisors or any managers. So if you are a supervisor or a manager, please raise your hand for me. I'm gonna ask you to lead. All right? I'm purposeful in that because I don't need to hear from the supervisors or managers. I need to hear from you all as drivers and monitors who are on the front lines that are dealing with some of the challenges, specifically with our students and our principals and folks at the local school in terms of the work that we do to provide quality transportation service for our families and our communities. Fair enough? So if somebody's sitting next to you, slipped in here and they're a supervisor, or field support supervisor, or a transportation manager, please call them out so we can embarrass them and ask them to walk out. I see a couple folks laughing. We got one in here, we need to call them out. Who are you?
I'm not just messing with you.
All right, good. All right, I'm just checking.
Tony, backup driver too. Tony.
Those folks, and we'll have that conversation separately. And I've already met with many of them, but I want to be honest and give you all some dedicated time as well. Is that all right? All right, cool. So before we start, though, there are some very important folks that I want to recognize who are serving you all on the driver and monitor advisory committee. You all should know who these individuals are, but I want to at least ask them to stand so we can thank them for their service on the committee. And I'll talk a little bit more about that committee here shortly. But today you should have Ms. Pickens should be here. Is Ms. Pickens in this morning? Good to see you, Ms. Pickens. Thank you. Let's give her a hand for it. Ms. Chantel Chandler. Is Ms. Chandler here as well? Thank you, Ms. Chandler. Ms. Renee Edwards. Is Ms. Edwards here? Thank you, Ms. Edwards. And then also Ms. Guthrie, Ms. Betty Guthrie. Is Ms. Guthrie here today? All right, Ms. Guthrie. Thank you. All right, so these four individuals for specifically District 122 support all of you as it relates to the work that we do. Is this your district, brother? No. So why are you doing me like this, man? You want to sit in today? How many of you guys know this guy in the back?
I know him.
The troublemaker, right? Are y'all
Come on, Mr. Pointer.
Are y'all comfortable sitting in?
Yeah.
All right, no, we're going to do this by vote. I'm going to respect the people that are here. If you are okay with Mr. Porter sitting in your district transportation meeting with the COO, raise your hand if you're all right with him sitting here. Uh-oh. All right. Sorry, sir. We do love you, though. We appreciate you.
Bye.
All right, as I said, I'm very direct and I'm very honest and I'm very real.
Thank you.
All right, just being real about it. This is a meeting for you all, and he will have his opportunity just as everybody else will. I'm going to be meeting with every district across the transportation department over about 5 to 6 weeks before school ends. So everybody will get this opportunity. So for those drivers who have not had that, you are the first. Please let them know that we will make time for them as well. Okay? I think all of my meetings are scheduled on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays between the 10 and 12 o'clock time frame, which is the time that you all won't be on bus routes and things like that, to make sure that we have enough time to do what we need to do. All right. So a little bit about myself first before I start. I am a product of the DeKalb County School District. I grew up in Decatur. I was part of M2M. Those of you who've been here long enough to remember M2M. I lived in Decatur and they shipped me over to Roland at that time. All right, so I went to Roland with a smile. We did what we had to do. And then I went to Chapel Hill Middle School. All right, and then I went and graduated from Southwest DeKalb High School. All right, that's what I'm talking about. All right, so we got some family in the house. All right, so this is home for me. So when we're talking about the work that we do, I'm very passionate about what we do. Okay, my mom was a bus driver as well, so we spent a lot of time serving and supporting a lot of young people who may not have had the food or the jackets during the cold months, and we provided them. So just being honest about it. So my heart is really sensitive to the work that you do and the work that we do collectively, specifically as it relates to transportation services to our to our students and our families that we serve, okay? All right, so with that, let's briefly talk about the role of and I have quite a few things on the agenda, and we'll get to everything. We have enough time, but I want to spend most of the time talking and listening, more importantly, to you and your questions and the concerns that you have. I've invited Ms. Tracy Hill. She's one of our project specialists who's going to be here and record the concerns and the things that we want to talk about. So as we begin to work through what I'm calling support improvement or service improvement initiatives, we'll have that stuff documented, and then we'll continue to report out to the 4 representatives that are on the DMAC committee that's serving and representing you as well. Okay? Is that fair? So we'll be able to give you constant information as we go through. But let's talk about the work that we did this past summer, specifically with the Driver and Monitor Advisory Committee, where we worked collaboratively. It was myself, and it was probably 8 folks on the actual leadership committee, and then it's about 32 or so people on the actual Driver and Monitor Advisory Committee. We all worked together to develop what we call our bylaws, and this basically is our rules of engagement, okay? And what we decided to do is that this committee, and I'll be honest with you, how many of you remember the legendary Linda Carthan, Reverend Carthan, right?
Yeah.
Okay? She and I used to meet one-on-one quite often when we first started. I've been in this position now for about 4 years, and during that time, she and I would sit down and have one-on-one meetings about issues that you all had as drivers and monitors. And a lot of the conversations that we had, I would then take them back to the committee, but one of the things that wasn't structured in the committee is it wasn't a direct report to the chief operating officer. So we created this bylaw so that if a new COO comes on board, they have to establish and continue the work that the advisory committee has started, okay? And I want to tell you what the goals and the expectations are as it relates to the work that we'll do together. So essentially, the overarching goals and the expectation of the bylaws is to seek out ways, and this is for the committee, seek out ways to increase employee morale and maintain an environment that promotes unity through building positive relationships with students, parents, faculty, and staff. And how many of you all have received a copy of this or have seen it at all? A few of you? Okay, all right, so we'll make sure that we get an email to all of you so that you have it if you care to have a copy of it. Improve communication between the drivers, monitors, and administrative leadership. Recommend changes and enhancements to the district standard operating procedures governing the transportation department. The committee will make inquiries to the district that are deemed responsible by the committee, reasonable by the committee regarding the activities of the district that relate to the transportation department. And then last but not least, you'll work collaboratively with administrative leadership to establish and provide opportunities for upward mobility and career progression. Okay? And we'll talk about that a little bit today, specifically as it relates to some things that we're doing with the Transportation Leadership Academy that we have. All right, there's 34 drivers and monitors that's on it. All of those individuals who are on the committee had to go through a selection process by you, their peers. They had to be a driver or monitor. You all took that vote in September of last year at the State of the Address when we do that training every year, okay? And the individuals will serve for a 2-year term. Yep, and then if there's any vacancies, you have to go through that same election process to make sure that those individuals are filled. Thank you, Tracy. You have some individuals that are on the committee that oversee various subcommittees. Some of those subcommittees are really supporting key initiatives that you all decide that are important that we need to work through. Some of them may relate to finance in terms of the pay stubs that you get that does not articulate all the fees that come out of your check. That's some things we've been talking about. Some of them may be related to some of the legislative and political issues that are currently going on in the legislation. And then some other things related to our standard operating procedures, concerns you may have. These committees will work collaboratively with the administrative leadership team to help come up with solutions that we can then represent to either the board or to the superintendent or others that can help us make some difference and make some change, okay? Meetings take place on a monthly basis. There's a meeting that the core leadership team have with me every month, and then there's a meeting that we all collectively as a committee have every month, and I'm a part of that meeting as well. So there's 2 times that we essentially meet every month, and the individuals that are part of the committee have been doing a really good job representing you all as it relates to the concerns that you've shared with them, okay? I won't go through all of this, but I just want to give you an overview. We can email this out, or I can get you a copy for anybody that's interested, but I want you to understand that this document essentially is put in place to make sure that you have a voice at the table when it comes to changes and issues within the Department of Transportation, okay? So if there's 4 individuals that I talked about earlier, if you have a concern, please take that concern to them and they'll bring it to the entire committee and we'll talk through strategies and ways that we can help resolve them and then also provide feedback on some of those things as it relates to the solutions, more importantly, that we're gonna work toward in order to resolve those concerns. Is that fair? Okay. All right, any questions about the bylaws before I go to the next subject? Thank you, ma'am.
How hard is it to get a copy today?
It's impossible.
Yes, ma'am. Somebody had a question?
How hard is it to get a copy today?
I'll make a copy now. How many of you all want a copy of 7 pages? Okay. All right, how many of you would prefer an email? How many of you actually check your emails? Like you know how to get in the Outlook and see them? Okay. All right, so you would rather have a copy of this today? Okay. Can you do front and back and it makes it go faster? Okay. All right, and then by the time you finish, we won't start questions, so you can. Okay. All right, so we'll work on that now. Yes, ma'am, no problem. All right, so let's talk about the document that you have in front of you. All right, how many of you, oh, forgot to mention, on the 17th, you should have got a notification, I'll call yesterday, the superintendent will be meeting
What?
with all, all drivers and monitors on
What?
the 17th.
Not Dr. Green.
Yeah, Dr. Green, yeah.
The real Dr. Green.
The real Dr.
Superintendent.
Green. Superintendent Dr. Green.
I'm a fall out.
We've been having this conversation for a while, and your committee representatives asked me directly if we could get a meeting scheduled with Dr. Green. And I had, no, they asked, during our last meeting, they asked, did you guys not ask that question? And I even got an email asking it as well. Let me say this, how many of you all went to the last board meeting, by the way? Alright, those of you who either went or saw it, I want to congratulate you all for a job well done. Alright, you all did a good job, and what you did was, you made it very clear in a very positive, a very professional, but a very real way that we need to be valued as transportation drivers and monitors, okay? And it's one thing for me, and I always do it, it's one thing for me to step up and have conversations with senior staff and say, we need to do this, we need to pay them more, we need to do all these things, but it's different when you as a driver and a monitor in a uniform way, step up to that mic in a very professional and positive manner and say, listen, we want to be considered part of the family as well. Even if that's not necessarily the case, simply having that voice at the mic makes a big difference, okay? And there's things that we're working through as it relates to this budget process that I think will be beneficial for all as we get through that process, specifically when I talk about a little bit about comp and class study that's going on and some of those other things that we're putting in the budget. Hopefully that will get the board to approve to help support some of those challenges that we talked about at the board meeting. But I want to commend you for a job well done in allowing your voices to be heard in a very positive and respectful way at the board meeting, okay? So thank you for that. 2 years ago, when Dr. Green came in, he had a vision, if you will, of what he called a decentralization. And let me explain what that means. Prior to Dr. Green, all of the operation function, which is transportation, business services, which is warehousing and supply chain function, facilities management, capital construction, all of these different things are centralized and they fall underneath the department that we oversee here at San Marcos. What he wanted to do is the regional superintendents, there are total right now of 5 regional superintendents. Those regional superintendents now have what they call a regional transportation manager, a regional facilities manager, a regional information technology manager, and so on and so forth. And he did that because he wanted to try to speed up the time that it would take to get responses to stakeholders and community members and folks that we serve as an operations or as a business unit, okay? He's actually now shifted from a 5-region structure, which is now a 7-region structure, which is what I've given you here now, okay? So I want to walk through this because some of you all may be shifted when we go to the 7-region structure. The current high school cluster that you may serve now may not be the one that you serve come August, okay? So I wanted to just walk through it with you so you understand what the shift and what the change is going to look like, okay? So right now, Region 1 is going to, for the most part, remain the same. This still will serve Chamblee, Cross Keys, and the Dunwoody cluster, okay? Region 2, for the most part, stayed similar as well. It's going to serve Druid Hills, Lakeside, and Tucker cluster, all right? If you can, please put your phones on silent for me so that others around you can hear. Region 3 will serve Lithonia, Redan, and Stevenson cluster. Region 4 will serve Clarkston and Stone Mountain cluster. Region 5 will be MLK, Miller Grove, and Southwest DeKalb. Region 6 will be Columbia and Towers. And then Region 7 will be Cedar Grove and McNair, okay? And the way they strategized, the way they did this, if you look on the back, you actually see the schools that are represented under each of those 7 regions. So if you serve Center, if you serve Magnet, which you all are part of, how are you, sir? You can sign in for us. Magnet shuttles, the Magnet shuttles don't necessarily change in terms of locations, and you all will still be managed, but you'll be managed based on the region or the cluster in which your school or your shuttle is located in, okay? So it'll be a little different than the way it was before, all right? All of our transportation, special transportation, like special needs and shuttle, the special needs will now fall under the regional transportation manager. It will not be under Cedric Burst, who's our director of fleet services and special transportation. Okay? The Magnet portion of that we'll still probably work under him, but we still need to work through and flesh through how that's gonna look, okay? We may assign it to a region, we may not, that decision hasn't been made yet. But I'm sharing this with you is that no matter what, change is coming, okay? That's really all I'm saying to you, is that change is coming, and I want you to be comfortable with the change, and as we grow and work through it, it'll get better over time, okay? I do want to note, though, one of the things, and I asked the question, why did they do the breakout the way that they did, where Region 1 still has a large number of schools, Region 2 has a large number of schools, and then the other ones are probably 16, 15, 18 schools or so. The reason why they did it, it was not based on operations. In other words, it wasn't structured based on how easily we can operate within a region. It was based on where is the greatest need for the students that we serve from an academic standpoint, okay? So what they were trying to do is, every region had about 25 to 26 or 28 schools originally. So there's several schools that are in regions 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 that needed more direct support than some of those other schools, and they wanted to make sure that they had enough support dedicated to those schools, and they wanted to lessen the amount of individuals that had to report to that one regional superintendent to get faster support from an academic standpoint, okay? That is to say that region 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 is greater than any other. It was just wanting to make sure that they put the resources where the resources were needed. Does that make sense? All right, so that's why I structured that way. So as we have to kind of revamp our operational structure, it will be a little different, but for the most part, all of the regions will be covered based on how it's shown on these sheets here. Okay? Are there any questions about that? The only thing you really need to take away from this part of the conversation is things are gonna change, and it's okay.
So
Okay.
if region, I'm sorry, so if region change, the TS still go with that region?
Correct, you got it. So what will happen is, great question. So if you have, you as a driver monitor, if you're currently in the Chamblee cluster, they're gonna take that entire Chamblee cluster and the transportation supervisors for that Chamblee cluster, and you'll be in region 1. If you were originally in region 3, which is Lithonia, Rita, and Stevenson, and I believe Clarkson was also currently in region 3, then you now, if you're in Clarkson, you will be part of region 4, but that TS, the drivers, and the monitors will now be in region 4. Does that make sense? So you're not gonna really feel or see the major change, but I want you to understand that the structure is gonna be slightly different. So if your regional transportation manager says, well, I need to speak with my regional superintendent about an issue, you know who that person is that they're talking about. That's what I want you to really take away from this. All right? So they're gonna hire 2 new regional superintendents. They're gonna hire 2 new regional transportation managers to support this structure. So we got 5, we're going to 7. Okay? So when it changes, I'll then come back sometime closer to August, and I'll send out for all of you via email, or we'll probably work it if I have to print them and get them to you, so you know who those new regional superintendents will be and who the regional transportation manager will be for that particular region. Does that make sense? Okay? You had a question, ma'am?
Yeah, so whereas we were all over.
Right.
the entire, we're not gonna be like that.
You will be from a magnet standpoint, but there may be some areas that we may be able to do more efficiently, depending on the number of drivers that will support that region. So, go ahead.
So our TS will change as well.
More than likely, your TS won't change. The only way the TS probably will change is if we need more drivers allotted to another TS so that you can accommodate the needs for that particular shuttle or that particular region that you're serving. But for right now, we don't expect many changes in terms of the TS and the drivers. Okay, good question. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So you're saying some of us can get some people somewhere else?
It's possible, but it's unlikely. But it is possible. I want to keep that on the table, because what may happen, for example, is the number of schools in the Clarkson cluster. If there was a TS that served both Lithonia and Stevenson, for example, one TS served them, now it'd be 2 separate TSs for one for each cluster. In that circumstance, then I want the drivers that serve, some of the drivers that serve them as one will now be split, so you may have some that may shift on those kind of situations. But most of them had a 1-to-1 supervisor and driver to the cluster, but there were a few that had 2 clusters to 1 supervisor. Okay, so those are the ones that we have to make some tweaks on. All right, any more questions about the new regional decentralization? Any questions? Are we clear? All you really need to take away is that things will change, and it's okay. All right?
Change and okay.
It's gonna come. Yes,
So
ma'am.
dealing with the clusters, so Ms. Tracy deals with the magnet, so that
Correct.
means you get another TS
that other person will be in charge of the magnitude. So you have
It's
to-
possible, that is correct. And what we're looking at is, will she need additional support from a supervisory standpoint to help her manage the number of magnet shuttles that we have and the locations in which we're gonna have to do it? That's the part we're looking at right now, okay? All right, so that, our intent is to get you more resources to make the work easier for all of us to bear, okay? All right, any more questions on that? All right, so let's talk about, let's talk about a couple projects that we have, and then we'll just get into questions and answers of things I want to hear from you. So, if you remember, probably, back in February, the board approved what they call the compensation and classification study. How many of you are familiar with what that is? All right, so let's take some time to talk about it. The comp and class study. All right, so what that basically is doing is that the board has asked the superintendent to have a company come in and evaluate all of the compensation classifications and the salary classifications and the job classifications for every employee within the district. And they want to look at that, but they want to evaluate that across the metro Atlanta area and other areas to see whether or not the board is compensating their employees at a fair and marketable rate. Okay? That's what it's all about. I have, over the past several years, have said that our drivers and our monitors make far less than what even our neighboring counties make. Okay? And unfortunately, sometimes, like I said, you gotta go through the process to get folks to see it a little differently, okay? But I think they got it. And one of the things that they're doing right now is that they're doing these focus groups, and you may have been part of a focus group. You may have been participating in what they call a job analysis questionnaire. And for you all as drivers, what we did was, there were some of you who had already gone in and submitted, and basically all it's doing is looking at your job specification and saying, do you do this, or do you do other things that should be added to it? So when they look at your classification salary structure, they need to pay you a comparable rate to some of the others, okay? When they finish all of this work, the board is gonna get a report, and when that report comes out, that report is gonna say two things. It's gonna say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Board Member, you have a $50 million deficit in how much you pay your employees predicated on what the market rate is going for right now for these particular positions. How do you want to work toward getting them where they are comparable within the market, right? And I'm just giving a number, for example. So if they say district-wide, there are $50 million worth of salary increases that need to happen, they may do $5 million over the next 10 years to everybody. They may say, we're gonna take $50 million out of general fund and we're gonna put it into every staff member right now, and you'll get that salary increase now. They may say, we're gonna do it predicated on different areas. So for example, I asked them to do operations first as part of the first phase. So anyone that is not tied to the local school has gone through this process first. And that was purposeful. Why? Because how many teacher salaries and local school salary increases have happened over the past 3 years versus what has happened in operations? Right? So that's the issue. So they were willing to do that. So my hope is that when the report comes out, if they don't get to the teachers and the principals and everybody else, they can at least say, for all those non-school-based personnel, which includes drivers, monitors, mechanics, maintenance technicians, all those staff members who support the local schools, if it comes out and say ours is 10 million of that 50, right? Who knows what the number is? I'm hopeful that they'll go ahead and start making an investment now and not wait.
Okay, they don't have.
That's the hope, that's the strategy, that's the conversation that I've been having with them, and we'll see what that looks like, but the board makes the decision. Last time when this was done, the group came in and the superintendent asked for the study. And let's be real honest about it, because there's some misinformation that's out there. The superintendent asked for the study. When the study came, the superintendent at that time, Dr. Atkinson, who was our superintendent when we were in the market crash, she used the report to cut everybody, and operations got cut by 52%.
Yeah.
We lost most of everything. I lost maintenance technicians, we lost drivers, we lost monitors, we lost school nutrition staff, we lost almost half of the staff members that we needed to support in terms of our local folks. We ended up taking the brunt of that hit, okay? So understand, that's why I'm so passionate about what I'm talking about, is because all the issues that we ended up having was because one person made the decision to use the report in a not so positive way, if that makes sense. This time, it's not the superintendent has requested the report. The superintendent will use the report to help inform the board's decision on how to address salary, how to address compensation, how to address how our job specifications are labeled and structured. Does Does that make sense? So the board will make a decision. My understanding is that the report possibly will be completed sometime by the end of May. As soon as it's finished, I'm happy to have that conversation and we can start talking through what it looks like so that you all can get the information. It will be presented at a board meeting, and I'm sure the board will pretty much be public about what they're gonna do in their strategy that they're gonna take to start restoring a lot of the salary deficits that we have across the district. Does that make sense? All right, so when you go to the board, and here's all about strategy and why I'm saying what I'm saying, we're in a budget process right now. And so there's certain individuals who've gone to the board and have talked and had very positive communication. If you decide to go to the board next month, the narrative is a little different now, right? Sometimes you can get a little bit more with honey than you can get with vinegar, right? So whether you feel like you hate the board or not, you can't stand the superintendent or not, when you get on camera, guess what you do? Thank you. You be professional. You know what? Thank you for considering what? All of this, right? We need raises, we need money, we need staff, we need all that. Thank you for doing that. And what happens? It's not for you. Guess who's watching you? The people who put them in office. So for a board member to say, you got people who are saying, hey, we have needs and we need help. And for you to say, I'm not concerned about that, I'm not willing to help our people eat and make ends meet. Guess what happens? They get tapped a little bit the next time they go out for re-election. But if you come up there and you show your behind, and we get up there and we do the disrespectful thing and it's just bad, guess what they're gonna say? You don't need to do that because we don't need those employees anyway. These are the folks that's taking care of our kids. I've seen it happen. I'm just saying, I've seen it happen in the district and so what I started to do is try to help change the strategy so that when you go up there, if you're positive, what can they say negative about you? What can they use? If you use factual data, what can they say? Nothing. But you know what? I hear their heart. They're very humble about it. They're just trying to eat like everybody else is trying to eat. We need to do something about it. And I know for certain you have it's 7 board members. Majority of them are in support of salary increases to staff and additional staff to help take some of the load off because of the cuts that we had years ago. Okay? So I'm doing my part behind the scenes to prepare them for what's to come. So the question is what is the budget gonna look like? And when we get to that point, they'll make a decision about what impact they'll be able to make for next school year. I'm hopeful at a minimum, they'll do a 3% raise for everybody. That's what I'm hoping for, at a minimum. All right, but I'm expecting more than that. Yes, ma'am.
Can they come and say what they've been saying?
Which is,
That
they don't have any
things gonna
money?
change? We gonna get raises?
Of course.
The board can always make a decision to keep the status quo or to make a difference, right? The question is not so much what will they say, the question is how much money in the digest will they have to invest in employees? So what you have is you have competing needs, right? So say if the district needs to hire new people, they need to give salary increases to folks, and they need to make sure that they have, capital needs or things taken care of, right? So you got all these different, like we do in our own house, right? We need to buy the kids some clothes, we gotta get food, we need to make sure we get the shoes, but I still got a mortgage to pay and I still got a light bill I gotta take care of. Which one is the highest priority? Well, I'm gonna pay my mortgage first, right? Then I'm gonna feed my kids, because at least they got a place to stay and they're not hungry. I might be able to carry those shoes a little bit longer than I planned, but I need to make sure the next thing I come back and do is buy those shoes. That's the kind of prioritization and discussion they're gonna have at a board level about the needs within the district. My hope, though, is that no matter what, they at least build in a salary increase now, because you gotta take care of your people. In my opinion, that's an absolute, but we'll see what they say. But I believe that they're gonna come back and have some positive conversation about what they can do, because we're not where we were in 2008 when the market crashed. Okay, our fund balance is about 125 million. If the governor, which I believe the governor just got a law approved where all of the QBE funding, if you remember that was taken away during that time, will finally be restored. It's about $166 million worth of QBE funds, which is the qualified funds for education, that comes back. Of that 166, who knows, we may get 5 million, I don't know what the number is, but we may get a portion of that, which will help, okay? So depending on what the fund balance is at the end of the year, that helps them in their decision-making process.
So you're saying there's a chance that we won't keep taking the big loss?
I think there's a chance now that where we are financially, that we won't go back. Yes, ma'am. No, I'm talking about us. I love the folks in the building, but I work for y'all, period, okay? So I'm arguing more for my folks, because they're gonna do what they gotta do for teachers and paraprofessionals and all the folks in the schools. So it's a positive change, yes, ma'am. Okay, no guarantee, but it is a positive change.
I mean, cause they asking us to do the same thing they asking the teachers. I mean, with counselors.
Oh, I agree, absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
So.
Yep. We'll get to that later. Go ahead, ma'am, I'm listening. You're right.
Really, we are. I mean, we just not with the children as long as they are.
But the kids won't be in the building if you don't go pick them up.
Well, they don't recognize that though, they don't recognize that though.
Here's all I'm saying, this is what I'm saying to you. I have always and I will always be a strong supporter of maintenance, transportation, operations, all the stuff that we do, right? And I'm very real about it, and I've had this conversation with them. If you don't go get the 67,000 kids that do not walk to school or their parents don't take them, how do they plan to get there so the teachers can teach? Right? If we don't keep the HVAC systems running and the buildings cooled or heated during the winter time, guess what happens? It's gonna impact their ability to learn and achieve. So it's our job to make sure that we do our part as support. It's the board's job to do their part as to what? Support the support. Okay? So the argument has been made. All I'm saying is I just need you all to thank them for what they're going to do. That's what I'm saying. In the process, be prepared and thank them for what they're going to do. Now, how much they do is the question. We don't know that yet. But the more that I know, the more I'm willing to share with you. Okay? As we find out, we'll do that. Yes, ma'am. And then I was gonna come back up here.
Because I was gonna ask, what amount were they dealing with, what amount of the budget, did they have an amount?
No, ma'am, not yet. No, the reserve, what I mean, the fund balance is like 125, and what that basically means, I'm glad you asked that question. So when we talk about fund balance or reserves, what that is say if the district did not get any more money tomorrow, how much money do you have in your savings account to continue to operate if no more dollars came into the district? Right now, that roughly 125 million, I think will cover the district and all of its operating expenses, your lights, your mortgage, right, all these things we need to do, will cover us, if I remember correctly, about 3 months worth of expenses to include our salaries for everybody that's here, okay? That's what that means, and you never wanna dip, in my opinion, below 100 or 125. That's really where you wanna be for a district our size, okay? So the question is how much more money in our tax digest, which is property values, right? People buy more homes in DeKalb, you get more money that comes back to you through the tax digest. Those are the dollars that we're talking about. We don't know what that dollar sign, what that looks like yet. Okay? Yes, ma'am, and then the brother up here in the front. Did you have, in the black shirt, I'm sorry, I thought you had a question. You good? All right, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
You said something about a form, describing the job description for
Yes.
drivers.
Mhm.
Who developed it, and can we see it? Because I really don't know what's all in it.
How many of you all have made an application to become a driver before? When you go on that PATS, right, everybody, when you go on that PATS and it says this is the job description, that's what I'm talking about.
We
Okay?
did paper, I had 21 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did paper.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't go electronically, then yes, it's a little different. All right, but the specification is basically that you drive and transport students, you keep them safe, all those kind of things that you all do. All right? Any more questions about Conference Class before I move to the next project? We good? All right, so bell time optimization. Right now, how many tiers do we operate on? 3. We do elementary, middle, and high, right? All right, and so one of the things that we're looking at is how efficient are we in doing the work that we do? So we have a vendor that's gonna be working with us, that's gonna help us determine if we need to change our start times, our release times, and how many tiers we should have. Okay, and they're gonna be talking with some of you to talk about that, so we can get a really good conversation going about, and with the public, about should we do a 4-bell schedule? Should we split elementary into 2? Should we keep it into 1 to be able to provide better support for our families? And should we start at 7:30 across the district and end at 2 o'clock across the district? Should we stagger it like we're currently doing, or should we keep it the same? All of these things we haven't done. When was the last time we did it?
Cause how y'all gonna get everybody?
It's been a long time. And so can you imagine with all the new technology and all the different things that we've deployed, how inefficient we've been? Right? And if I can figure out a way to generate savings within the department, then I can make the argument of what? We need to reinvest those dollars back to who? The
Yeah, right,
employees that
to
work in
y'all
the
pockets,
department.
to y'all
You
pockets.
see the big picture? That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure out how can I find ways to save money, become efficient, so I can argue the case that if I save you $2 million this year, or $3 million in fuel costs. I save you money in, repair costs on buses because we've improved our ability to travel and not have as many accidents and replace buses. If I can do that and I can save $3 or $4 million, guess what I'm gonna argue? Because we did that, I need you to put that $2 or $3 million back into salaries of the employees that are working here.
And it ain't gonna happen.
Does that make sense? That's why I'm doing a lot of the stuff that we're about to talk about. So bell schedule is one. We're talking about mobile fueling. We do some of that now for our diesel buses. We purchase propane buses. Why do we do that? It's more economical and it provides us with an opportunity to lower our repair costs and lower our fuel costs. All right, so when you hear a lot of this stuff, it's all about how can I become more efficient to be able to generate savings that I can argue for to go back into staff. Okay, yes ma'am.
Okay, and I'm not trying to be funny,
No, you're fine.
but we've heard all of this before. All of this is just chatter to us, to be honest with you, because y'all have money for everything else. Like you say, the propane buses, to do this, to do that, but for us. And when it comes down to the drivers, we're always overlooked, and we've been getting overlooked for a long time.
Okay.
So, you're saying, go to the board, say this, y'all gonna consider, when?
Here's the difference, and this is why I'm having these conversations.
Mhm.
Where does the money come from to buy buses?
You tell me.
Right, it comes from SPOS. It's not general fund.
Right.
The millions of dollars that we just bought, 160 buses, that come out of general fund, out of salaries, has nothing to do with it. But this is why I'm saying, why I'm having this very close, this is a real conversation with everybody, I'm comfortable having it. Because that has been the thought, because nobody, I don't know any COO that's doing what I've done, which is have conversations like this. They haven't, I'm telling you, the COOs that were there before me didn't do it. We have $561 million in East-Block funds. Not a penny can go to pay operations and maintenance. If it could, guess what? We wouldn't have this conversation about salaries. If I could pay and use those dollars to do this, I could answer your question when, and I wouldn't be standing up here and making you feel like I'm just talking like everybody else did, because that's not what I'm doing. I'm not gonna waste my time with you. I'll be the first person to tell you that if I don't see that there's hope and there's an opportunity, then I'm gonna just tell you do what you do, because I'm not gonna waste my time trying to be it. Matter of fact, I'm not gonna be here. I don't wanna be a part of an organization that's not continuously improving and moving forward and being progressive. I don't. And I encourage you to have a similar mindset, because if the organization is not moving forward, then we're holding our kids back. Okay? We gotta do better about that. But the money that you're talking about, that comes from SPOS. I can't control that part. The monies that you're talking about are general fund. And the general fund dollars is controlled by the board. That's the difference. So yes, the board has the prerogative to make decisions to say, I'm gonna put all of our monies that we have right now into salaries. But when they say that, that means that some other priorities may not get funded. That's all I'm saying, and that's fine.
And that is
And
totally
it's-
fine
and it's-
because,
it's absolutely,
because
it's
we
all
are
over there.
priority
Yes, ma'am.
too.
Yes, ma'am, I
You
agree
know?
with you. And that's what this comp class study is about, is what is the right number to do that? The question that's gonna come out is whenever that report for the comp class study is completed, you will see where we are, where the board is based on what they can do, based on their comp class study. That number is 5 million, and they say we're gonna give everybody what they need and allocate the 5 million, great. I think it's gonna be much larger than 5 million, because it's been, how many years? Almost 10 years? Since everybody, I think 2008 is when I first got here, I've never received a raise unless I had to get promoted. It's probably been way longer than that, I'm sure.
Yes,
before I got here.
yes, it has.
Okay?
It's been a
So just
long
understand
time.
that that's part of it. So I respect what you're saying, I totally understand what you're saying, and it is frustrating, I agree with you. Yes, you had a question, sir? You good? All right, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask, is it beneficial, they have like a company come down and inspect the buses, and the buses are red tagged, but we still have to take them to the mechanics. I mean, that seems like that's a waste of money.
They got
Which
money.
one's a red tag?
I mean, having the.
Having them inspect.
The company comes and inspects.
So let me explain, I'm glad you asked that question. So it is a state mandate that buses be inspected every 21 days. But our mechanics, we don't have enough mechanics to do the inspections.
Because they got rid of them.
Correct.
Because they got rid
And
of
I've been
them.
trying to hire, we lost almost 40 mechanics when we got rid of them.
When I first came, we had, my bus was assigned to its own mechanic.
That's correct.
That's
We don't
who
have
did
that,
my
that's the
inspection
problem.
every
So
21
we
days.
had, instead of bringing in people, we had to outsource at a lower rate in order to do it. Now we're bringing in people. So I just hired, last year, we were able to get 5 new mechanics. This year, I've asked for 8 mechanics. So if they continue to give us the people now, then I can reduce that contract outsourcing, and then we have the ability to do it. The outsourcing is costly.
It is.
Absolutely.
It does.
But who's been here for a while and remember the old conversation about loaded central office?
Oh, they got
Remember
money for
that
that.
conversation?
Yeah, they got money for everything.
Loaded central office, that we had too many people in the central office, and that's where all the money was going. That's what Atkinson used to cut operations. Operations is part of central office. People thought that central office was what? AIC.
Right.
It is not all AIC. We carry all of the mechanics, you all as drivers and monitors, you're part of central office.
No, she did. He told me
Yes.
she did.
I argued them
And
not to
they
do
haven't
that.
undid what she did though.
I'm just telling you what happened. I'm being real about it because that's what happened. And when they said, oh, we can't deal with the central office expanding and adding more people to central office, guess what they did? They just cut us and they left the schools alone. Because they wouldn't have survived saying we're cutting teachers, because that's our core business. But they cut support staff and nobody will think twice about it. All right, it was a very rough time, I'm just telling you, it was very difficult, but we're working through it, but that's why we are where we are. Any other questions? I think you had a question, madam? Uh-huh.
Get back on the right team, sweetie.
Come up with a centralized location where these kids whose parents are not there to pick them up. But you spend more time, people waiting 30 minutes for a parent, or
Drive
they're
back,
not there,
yeah.
then you gotta take them back to school. If you can utilize the Memorial Shuttle and bring those kids and let those parents start experiencing riding from their home over to.
Absolutely, they'll be on time, won't they?
Pretty much, cause
Yep.
Yeah, they'll get their A's on time. Exactly. I agree with that. I agree with that.
So I'm on the same page.
Efficiency strategies that we're looking at.
You know what?
Okay,
Sandra,
so
you got
if
one
you
more
have
thing.
other suggestions similar to what the young lady just mentioned about how do we take the efficiencies and use those efficiencies to change the culture, basically, of the parents and the other folks who we're serving, we need to take it, that's part of this, evaluation of bus optimization and all of that, as we look at how we improve our efficiencies and operations.
Parents of using the system, that their kids.
Shonda, I'm a call you, Shonda. I need to talk to you. I'm gonna ask you.
They've been in the system for 3-4 years saying that, oh, we had a fire in our house in 2001, and here it is 2006, they're still being shuttled.
We need to identify those folks. You gotta let us know those people so we can deal with that.
Well, I'm just saying, you have 2 kids riding now, and 44
Yeah.
passengers.
You gonna let them know, Shantae? I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna tell you exactly who it is. Let you know who
Some of
it
them we know
is.
about and we've addressed them, but there's others that you may know that we may not know about, that's helping the system. 1 second, you guys, she has a question.
That's it.
Yeah.
And as long as they say we don't want our children in school, the kindergarten half a day, it's not gonna work. Because we are babies.
But we babysitters.
We're
We're
babysitters. With
babysitters.
no
We are
pay.
babysitters.
Okay.
They listen to the parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
They go to
I will say this,
Yeah.
I've been here for 10 years and I would agree.
We are
I
babysitters
do, I've
before
seen
and
that as
after.
a
What
past
school
practice.
started?
I will say
I get
though,
on the bus at 5.
that there's been
We
more
babysit.
pushback, 1 second, you guys, there's been more pushback on, inefficiency and waste with the new board of superintendent that we have now than I've ever seen in DeKalb. I will say that. And there's been several circumstances and instances where parents have done what you just described, and the superintendent supported the whole way, the recommendation for those students or those parents to deal with those, and that's been part of it. I think part of it is we gotta continue to push that though. So as they come up, we need to continue to push it to change the culture. That's the difference. So as you know about them, please report them so that we can start using those as opportunities to make change, and that's the only way we're gonna be able to change it, okay? But I appreciate you saying it, because that has been a deep-rooted issue within the district for a very long time. Okay? Any other questions about comp and class or bus optimization? All right, then I want to get to really. So yeah, let's talk about the Transportation Leadership Academy, and then I really want to just get to concerns and other issues that you have. How many of you all received this flyer or got notification about the Leadership Academy that we're starting?
Yeah, last.
Okay,
meeting,
so you
that's
remember
all.
one of the components of the, and I'll talk about it. If those of you who said no, do I need to make a copy before we go?
Yes.
All right. All right, we'll make you some copies of this too. One of the things that I'm very a strong proponent on is if a monitor wants to become a director of transportation or a driver wants to become a director of transportation, what pathway do you have that the district has put together to help you do that? Absolutely nothing.
Cause they block us.
Well, I would say that. I think a large part of it, now, some of your supervisors have.
Yeah,
And
they
we know
block
that, I've
us.
heard
Yeah,
about that.
they block us.
Yeah, I heard about that. And what I'm trying to do is take the power out of the hands of leadership and put the power and ability and accountability where? In yours. Okay? So if you wanna be a manager, a supervisor, a regional transportation manager, or a director, or whatever, there should be some way that you can accomplish that. And this is the way and the structure that I'm trying to put in place to do that. Part of what I'm trying to do, I don't know how long the Lord will have me here, but as long as I can make some good and make a difference, I'm here. But whenever it's time to leave, we need to have some things in place that others have not put in place when it's time to make that transition for all of us. If the district won't pay you, they should at least invest in your professional development. Does that make sense? If I'm not gonna put money in your pocket, in your salary, in your check, the least I can do is figure out a way to get you a driver instruction or a specialist or a special needs transportation certification so that when you leave here, I want you to go work for Fulton or work for Gwinnett and get paid 10 times more than you got paid here. I'll be the first person to tell you that. And I'm gonna figure out a way to help you do that. And I'm gonna use district funds to help pay for the certification that you're gonna get. So whenever that transition happens, you can go do what you need to do. Because if we value you, guess what we're gonna do? When you get that certification, I'm gonna do everything I can do to keep you. Does that make sense? So I'm working the strategy the other way. So while the board is doing this comp and class study and they're gonna try to figure out how much they wanna pay you, in my budget, not the SPOS budget, but my general fund budget that controls professional development, I'm gonna ask at least 35 people, how many of you are serious about going through this 2-year program so that I can get you certified? And if the district doesn't pay you more when you get certified, you make a decision at that point to do what you feel you need to do. But I'm hopeful that by the time we get there, they would have already made the commitment so that we can do what we need to do and retain you. So there's an ability for you to have upward mobility and career progression within the department that you all love and you serve in, right? That's what I'm trying to accomplish for you. So how do we plan to do that? There was a application that was published, and if you haven't made the application for it, I encourage you to do so. The end date was extended, several of you came, some of the folks on the committee came and asked us to provide clarity and extend the end date to April 14th. We did that. I'll give you a copy of this so you can make sure you go online and fill it out if you're interested.
Okay.
Any transportation employee that's been here for at least 2 years are able and qualified to be part of the process, okay? All right? The candidate selection will be based on the quality of the application and interview. So you will have to formally sit through an interview. The review and interviews and candidate recommendation will be conducted by an independent panel. And one of the things that I was very honest about it, I do not want anybody in transportation evaluating other transportation folks. I don't want supervisors sitting on your panel to say whether or not you can or you can't be part of this process. So when I said why I don't want supervisors here, because I said the same thing to them. And if I hear any intimidation or anybody coming back to do something to you, please let me know. All right, we're not gonna tolerate it. I've heard too many stories about what people have done to oppress and depress the people that they're leading and serving. We are not going to tolerate it. Not gonna happen. So part of this process is that if you make an application and you're selected, I'm going to personally support you through this process to get you through this next 2 years so you can acquire one of these certifications, okay? There's only one person in our school district that has a director certification. Who knows who that person is? I know you know. Don't say it. Who said it? Oh, yeah, she said it too. Tony Blackman. How many of you know Tony Blackman? He's been with us for a while, okay? He's the only one that has a director certification. I need at least 20 other people with a director certification, and I don't want them to come from the managers or the supervisors. I want them to come out of this room. Does that make sense? All right. So if you are interested, please apply. You got a driver instructor, and these driver instructors can be part of our safety and training initiative that we're promoting. There's some new safety and training positions that we're trying to bring on board for those individuals who may be interested. Specialists, special needs transportation. How many of you aspire to be a supervisor at some point?
No.
No, not one. Y'all wanna deal with the headache or you
Nah,
wanna
we
deal
don't
with
want
the
the headache.
Don't say it out loud. I get it. Just nod and just wink a little bit. All right, so, but listen, here's the reality though. Here's the reality. Every great thing comes with what? Hard work. Hard work. All right, so if you are interested, as long as I'm here, I'm willing to support it. That's so funny. How many want to become a director at some point? Hey, you don't have to do it here. If you want to go somewhere else. All right, we got one person in the back. All right, two. That's it. Three. All right, I want you to go for it. Please do. If it's not for you, it is all right too. I don't have a problem with that either. But those who are truly serious and interested, Ms. Tracy's gonna get you a copy of the flyer. I encourage you to make sure you apply before the 14th, and then we'll go through that process. The individuals that'll be on the independent committee that'll review will probably be folks outside of transportation, to include somebody in IT. I may try to get the CIO of IT. I may be on there, I'm not sure yet, but we'll have some folks that are not directly tied to those individuals who are within the transportation department, okay?
And how long do you think you have to be here?
It'll be a 2-year process, because in order to do it, you have to be in DeKalb for at least 2 years to actually make application before you can do it, okay? Yes, ma'am? The
April
14th.
14th.
That's this week, this Friday.
So you're
So
applying
some of you
half?
just, this is the first time many of you just heard it?
So, no, it's not.
No, they talked about it at the last meeting.
Okay.
They talked about it at the
From what I
last meeting.
understand,
Y'all
we've been having
need
this
to,
ongoing
they talked about
conversation.
it.
Hold on one second. Let me make sure I hear this, because she had a good question. She asked, is the 14th the deadline? Yes, we extended it to the 14th. My question is this the first time that anybody in this room has heard about it?
No.
All right, maybe for you? Okay, are you new? Is this,
I just hadn't heard, I
Just
heard
hadn't heard.
about it when they announced it a year or so ago.
oh, okay, but you hadn't really had much detail?
I haven't heard
Okay,
anything.
I'm gonna give you a copy today. I encourage you to take advantage of it and pass it along to anybody else that may not have heard it.
Thank you.
I gave them a very clear directive to have conversations so that you all knew about it, and to provide you with a copy of that flyer. If they didn't give it to you, I'm gonna personally give it to you before you leave
They
today.
did.
All right?
They gave it to them.
All right, any questions about that? Yes, ma'am?
What about that?
Okay,
Are we gonna talk about Social Security?
all right. All right, so here's where we are. I've said everything I needed to say. Let's take some time, let's take 30 minutes, and we'll talk about anything that you may have that you wanna talk about, and Ms. Tracy will kind of document things that we can't resolve today. All right, so she wants to talk about Social Security. Give me 1 second, you guys, so we can hear a question. Here we go. What's your question?
Okay, so we're trying to get us more money or whatever. What about Social Security? Have you been talking to the board or the?
We went to the board about it. We done been to the board.
And you're talking about the retirement plan that the district puts money into now, which is a waste of time. Right. In my opinion, I think you get $15 a day or something, and a large part of that is legal and state mandated is the problem. And I don't know if you guys remember, but there was some legislation that was passed some time ago that if you did not have, I think, a direct reporter or some type of reporting structure, then you were in the purser's retirement. If you had, then you were in TRS. And TRS is where you really want to be, because that's where the state is putting more money into your teacher retirement, which is the retirement system that's a little different. And part of what I asked for when that happened was, is there any way that we can lobby to have them make the change so that drivers can be part of that system as well? They're still having that conversation, and they do have folks that are working through it. But that's a state issue, that's a legislative issue. That's not necessarily a board issue, right? You all as drivers are gonna have to have conversations with your councilmen and councilwomen and folks, commissioners, people who have the ability to make a decision about how do they finance and fund retirement for bus drivers. That's a collaborated effort, not just in DeKalb, that's across the state.
So we need to go stand outside their office.
Which one? Not the board office, because they're not the ones that help you. Yeah, but we just finished that legislative process, but you need to find out, and, you know, I know you do a lot of work, I'm not gonna put you out there, but you have resources that can possibly help you, but I'm not gonna encourage you to go stand out there. All I'm saying, this is a much bigger issue than the CAP, is all. Okay, is that fair? Yes, ma'am.
Well, they'll do something.
Right.
don't have no.
Right, here's the question, nobody is arguing that point, I agree with you. Here's the difference, and I mean this with love. We allow people to do to us what they do to us.
Exactly, is that,
Right?
can you say that
And what I'm
again?
saying I'm not saying that.
Say that
I'm
one
not
more
saying
time.
that in
Say,
an
can you say
adversarial
that
way,
one more
though.
time
Listen,
though?
I'm
But
not
for
saying
real
that in
though.
an adversarial way.
Nah, but
All
you
I'm
for
saying
real.
is knowledge is power. The more you know, the
The
more
better.
you can affect change. And if you take the opportunity to learn about the system and where you can make changes in the system, then you start asking the right questions like what you're asking now about what do I need to do to start helping to make change. Don't wait for somebody else to come and make the change for you, because it's never happened.
Hello, so y'all
And what I'm
hear
saying
that?
is that is a larger issue that has to be dealt with through legislation that's gonna require other folks outside of this room to help us get there. And there's people who are fighting for it, there's folks who are trying to help us get there. So it's not a negative thing, it's just, it's a process that we have to go through, and it's a challenge to do it. But we gotta be thoughtful about getting the knowledge that we need about how we can make change and how we can help support the change that we're seeking to experience. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying that to say go knock on your legislators' doors and call them out and beat them down. That's not what we're talking about. It's about collaborative, positive partnerships to help us affect change in a positive way that benefits you. Have the right, yeah, you have the right to do anything, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not saying
in that
you're
regard.
telling us to do it, but we do have that right.
You have the right to have conversation with anybody you feel you need
Right.
to. All I'm saying is be,
We vote them in, so we had a right to address it.
yeah, you can have conversation with them, yeah. Absolutely. All I'm saying is, knowledge is power, and you gotta use that knowledge to make a difference in your own personal life and in the
In your
lives of
own,
those people that
exactly.
Okay?
That's what
Yes,
I'm
sir.
saying all the time, yeah.
1 second, he has another question.
Did Butch ever have social security?
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
know.
You retired.
Okay,
I
he
don't
answers this
remember
question,
that.
because I'm not sure.
I don't remember that.
Okay, I'm not sure. so
I wouldn't,
I won't
okay,
be
you
able
been
to
on,
answer that.
okay. Okay, yeah, 'cause I don't remember.
Okay, next question.
You have it as a they take out some.
Yes. 1 second, you all, so you can hear
Ms.
the question.
Pickens talking, go ahead, Ms. Pickens.
They're asking the parents to give suggestions for hours and student conduct.
I think they did that last year too, where they did a survey about student code of conduct. I think this year's probably is more pronounced because it went well last year, because they did get some feedback on it. But it's not just parents, so I think employees can give input in that as well.
Suggestions, but they're looking more for the parents, or a driver, is a parent, if it's challenging in DeKalb County.
Mhm.
They ask them for suggestions, but what suggestions can a parent do that the driver, why we're not in that law?
For-
It's a notice of law that was sent from.
About parents?
Yes.
Okay, that I couldn't answer, I'm not sure about the legal side of it. But what I will say is that you all have an avenue to give input,
Yeah.
I'm standing in the
we
room.
understand that,
but you wanna
why
take
they make
advantage
it
of
law
it.
for them and not law?
Oh, that I don't know, I'm sorry, I couldn't answer that part, I'm not sure about the legal side of it.
I'll send her an email.
Okay, yeah, that I couldn't answer, I'm sorry, yes,
Hey,
ma'am.
Mr. Williams, they wanna know, the advisory committee, they wanna know what does she do when she go down to the building? They wanna know, they wanna know.
Okay. So here's what I do.
Yeah, it's, well, I definitely know that Ms. Ed was on, I didn't know about anybody else.
I didn't.
I got you. Let me explain for you. I'm right here. I got you covered. So,
I
we
showed her no
have
Miss
actually,
Betty.
this is the
Miss Betty,
first
you
time
on the
this year
advisory
through the
committee?
formation, truly of the
She wasn't
formation
even
of
at the
the
board.
Driver Advisory and Monitor Committee, that one of the requests that has come out of the committee is to have somebody support and listen and understand the issues down at the go-go, okay? She has raised her hand and said she's willing to do it, but I haven't given her, as the overseer of the advisory committee, I have not given her authority to represent the school district or represent the committee or represent anybody other than herself.
Why?
Because that's not the capacity that she serves as a driver right now. I have to get that approved through the superintendent. Why? Because the district has lobbyists that represent the district. It's different. She cannot go down there in her unofficial capacity as a district employee and say, I'm representing all drivers for the DeKalb County School District. That's not how that works. The board has hired a lobbying firm that promotes the issues and concerns that they have specific to transportation, education, all those things. They represent the district. If she's going down there to listen and bring back information that she's heard, that's okay. But she can't go down there, listen, talk about different things, because that's not the role that she plays. So what we're working through is how much involvement does she have, and how much does she come back and share with the committee, to share with you all as well, okay? And we haven't, because we haven't gotten to that point yet. That's the committee that we're starting, but she has not been given authorization to formalize that subcommittee and move forward in that capacity. I will have to have conversation with the superintendent about whether or not a district employees can represent us in that fashion, and we haven't had that conversation. That's what the lobbyists.
Well,
Well, they already have lobbyists that does that. The board is the one that dictates that. The board has to do that, and Denson is the lobbying firm that we have that just represented us through this past legislation process. Okay?
If they can't
Okay.
control people, I think they think they can't control people, they're not gonna be chosen.
I'm not following.
What I'm saying, the people they have in place,
Okay.
I'm sure they can control them.
In terms of the lobbying efforts?
Yeah, the ones they send down there.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
the
the
board,
ones they
no,
sit
no, no,
down.
yeah, this is what happened though. The board determines, the board actually votes on what their lobbying agenda is. So the board says, these are the things I need you to focus on, not the lobbyists,
No, I'm saying the people that they send,
okay?
these are the things. Of course, they may not want her to even go down there and focus on what the drivers
No,
need.
no.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. The board has individuals who do
Right.
the lobbying efforts, and they tell them exactly, they give them a legislative agenda and tell them what they want them to lobby for. And sometimes it is transportation. Sometimes it is, a lot of, we talked about seatbelts, there's things on the agenda that the board asks them to work. Yeah, whether or not safety belts should be on buses, there's some legal issues with that right now.
I mean, but some of
But
it should be
some-
our concern, and other things to benefit.
I agree, and what I'm saying to you is your avenue to influence that is me. What I'm saying to you is your avenue to influence what the board is doing is me. That's why I'm having these conversations with you. All your concerns, guess what she's doing? She's writing them down. And what I heard is you wanna know what type of representation can be had with the legal issues, specifically with Social Security, with some of these other things that, like you mentioned as well. Right, teacher retirement, all these things that I don't have control over, but guess what? I'm a voice or a mouthpiece to speak to the board and superintendent on your behalf, that they can put as part of that because of these concerns. And so when I finish all of this with all the drivers, I'm gonna meet with superintendent and have the opportunity to share with them. When you all meet with them on the 17th, guess what? Stand up and say the same thing.
and she did go to the board at the last board meeting, and she asked the board
She
to
sure
take
did.
these
sure did.
issues to the
She
Coverdale
did a great
building
job last
and,
board meeting.
and express that. So, she did go before the board at the last board meeting, and she expressed that to the
She did a
board.
very good job asking the board.
Asking the board to do that for us, yes. That's right, Ms. Evans.
Hopefully the superintendent won't say, oh, they just bust drivers.
No, ma'am, I can assure you.
Hope he don't say that.
He's not.
That is what he said.
Hope he don't do it again.
I heard you. What I'm saying is, I think after the conversation I had with him and after the representation you all had at the board meeting, I suspect you'll see a different kind of response moving forward. Okay? This lady here, then I'm gonna get to her and then come back to you. Yes, ma'am. Huh?
That Panther bill, can you explain that big white trailer that's in the middle?
Them ditches, they got
I
ditches.
sure can. Yeah. So, the brother right here in the blue jacket said that was actually a driving test and see how many people actually passed the test. If you do not go around Everybody passed. Can I answer your question? So, last year, we got a request from public safety, they wanted the portable because they were gonna put a public safety hub at Panthersville. That's what that was for. After that though, if you remember, you may or may not know, but the director at that time ended up transitioning, and the new director didn't deploy the folks to that location. So they probably are going to for next school year, but he hasn't made that decision yet, because he just now took over the department, probably within the last couple of months. Okay, so that's why that's there. If we don't need it, then there may be some opportunities for an extended lounge or something like that in this space, which is what I'm thinking about long term, but I need them to answer the question. The potholes under Splosh, East Splosh, alright? I had $2.6 million for bus hub improvements for parking lots only. It cost about $1.3 million to pave all of Pampersville. And I didn't have it, that's not in there. It's not in there. But here's what it is. We did have some money on the general fund, and I was able to do some paving on the general fund. That's how we got the paving last time. I didn't have money to do it, right? And it didn't last, I agree, it didn't last. But I have an RFP, if I have monies left over, there's 2 locations that the board approved for paving. How many of you have been to Hartford Stadium, the lower lot?
Yes.
Is it worse than Pampersville or better? It's worse. That's why that one got done first. Okay, so that's part of it, as well as East DeKalb campus. How many have been there? East DeKalb campus, where the buses park off Memorial Drive.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
We'll work through some of those. Those we can work through general fund. The problem is it costs millions and millions of dollars to do these large parking lots. And unfortunately, if I put the money in the parking lot, there's schools that don't have HVAC that I have issues with, that the kids are directly being impacted, that we have to use the money.
Tell them to bring some pressure on and fill it.
Yeah, and I can, it's been recorded, and we'll work with some of those.
As we go out there, do the pressure run.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I know,
One
you
second,
probably
yes.
gonna be mad at me for
No,
saying this,
you're
but
fine,
I
this is
hear.
free space. You
I
always
wanna
start.
know, is there any possibility that our money will not be prorated?
Say that one more time. Let me make sure I understand.
Why
You're
I
talking
get paid
about
all
over the
year
summer?
long and
Over
not
the
get
summer?
unemployment, yes. Is it-
That's something that's come up. We have that as part of our conversation to have, to see if they can, here's a challenge though. If you, as I understand it, right now, you get paid through and then you don't get paid over the summer, correct?
Yeah, no, we get paid.
You get paid over the summer.
Yeah, we get paid over the summer.
What you're asking-
That basically saying get them all their money all year and then some of
you know, what I'm saying to you, you would rather.
Okay, y'all listen, hold up, listen please.
I wanna make sure I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Right now, you get paid year round.
Right.
But you wanna get paid just for the time that you work, not during the
Yes, you
summer,
want all
unless you
her
do
money
summer
at one
school,
time.
correct?
Right,
Right.
because I
You make more money.
I don't feel like I'm making all my money all year.
making
And
nothing.
let me decide how I want to distribute my money. And then, and see, what really made me think about this was when, the superintendent that was here,
One
Thurman,
second, you all,
when he was here,
Yeah.
and he was like, y'all don't get unemployment? And they were like, no. But if he said that, then that makes me think, okay, maybe we should have been getting unemployment all along.
So let
And
me,
they shouldn't have been prorating our money.
let me ask you this question, because I wanna make sure I hear what you're saying, so I can never put it down. Now this is just for her, alright? This is just for you, there's nobody else.
Right.
What you're asking is it possible to get paid through the time that you're actually working? During the summer, either you get another job or you collect unemployment during the summer.
Yes.
So you maximize your pay during the time that you're actually working.
Yes.
Alright, I'm gonna take that and we're gonna put it on the sheet. Alright, and I'll ask you a question. I'll be happy to ask you a question. Okay? It was another gentleman in the back. One second, she had a question. No, let's get to, he was patient. Let's get to the guy in the back. Yes, sir.
Listen up.
Alright, you got it.
Quiet.
I know you were saying something about the potholes, but we also have personal vehicles that gotta go through there to get them. But I had a situation with my customized car I had to sell. The whole front end went inside of a pothole.
Where was it at? What location? Alright.
When I first started.
So what I'll do, I got it.
They were telling me that they can't take care of it, because I'm like, ain't this y'all property? But they're saying, oh, we can't pay for it, but they brought somebody in to come fix the power.
Yeah, the
Right now,
district,
they have to meet.
yeah. So here's what we did, because we had to put an RFP out for the potholes. If I have money, I'll be honest, what I've been doing. This is what I've been doing. If we have money left over in all of the budgets, then I put those toward addressing issues that we couldn't address that wasn't budgeted. So at the end of the year, in June, if I have $200,000 or $300,000 that's left in the budget that hasn't been spent, I go get an asphalt paver and I send them out there to address the potholes. That's how I did the other work before.
All right, but I'm saying, but what about
Yeah, they won't. The district, no, the district it's a legal issue. What it is that the district has sovereign immunity. And if a tree falls on the car, or something that's on district property that damages something else, the school district can't be held liable. Now, you can sue, and you might be able to get some damages, but they won't just do it. That's the
So that's
difference.
what you're talking about, like, so packaging.
All, yeah. No, the school district property, period. So whether it's a site, whether it's a bus transportation hub, if we own the property, then no, they won't pay for any damages. That's across the board for everybody.
So you know what, they can tell people that.
Absolutely. All right, did you guys, give me 2 seconds. Did you hear, because he has a really good point. Did you all hear what he said? Okay. I understand. So, but no, you bring a good point. What he said was, had he known that the district property that it was sovereign immunity, that in other words, the district wouldn't be responsible for the repairs, then he would have responded a little differently, because he's knowing that going in, right? And does anybody else, did you all not know that? Because I'm glad you said that, I didn't bring that up.
No, I didn't know that.
You never know that? Okay. All right. No, I agree, I've had it too. I may have a tree falling out here too, so that's why we got the trees. That was the cold back.
They want you to call your insurance company, you go to your own insurance company.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that comes from your insurance company.
When the bus touched my car, they fix it. Oh, they fix it.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a few extra questions and then we'll circle back next time. You got questions? Lady has
Didn't the bus run into your car?
1 second.
Okay, so, see, that's different.
Oh, okay, so the meeting on the 17th with the superintendent is at 10 o'clock, which is the Tuesday the 17th. It's 10 o'clock at AIC. Okay? Now, you all should have got an all-call yesterday. Did you not hear it on the all-call?
We got it this morning.
And the
We
all-call-
got it
you
this
got
morning,
All right,
yes.
then the second part of that all-call is how many of you plan to support summer school? Alright, now when they talked about summer school before, that's what I expected you all to say, because they talked about giving you a $12 base salary to do it.
Yes,
Absolutely
yes,
not
okay,
gonna
cause
happen.
we was like, cause y'all weren't gonna have no drops.
I'm not gonna say it more than once, and I'm not gonna try to talk over you, because I want you to hear this. Alright, they said originally, when CNI, our curriculum and instruction people were setting it up, they said all they could afford to do was $12 an hour. And what I told them, you're gonna pay them their base salary rate.
Right.
So that's what you're gonna get, and I'm gonna cover the difference.
Okay.
I'm telling you what we're doing, so don't,
And we appreciate it.
yeah, don't talk over that, because I wanna make sure you hear it, right?
So I'm gonna get paid what I make an hour.
What
Yes,
your hourly
yes,
rate
what
is,
your
what
hourly
they're gonna
rate
pay
is,
you.
yep,
And
yep.
if you plan to do summer school, I need you to
Go
let your
apply.
supervisor know, so I can put you on the list, and they'll go in the system and they're gonna code you to reflect that you plan to work and support summer school.
So we don't have to do the application thing?
No, ma'am, I killed that, because the application process is causing issues too. Here's the thing. I want you to understand one thing for me. When I know about it, I can help make a difference. Guess when I found out about the summer school and found out about the application?
When?
Summer school was probably 3 weeks ago. The application was yesterday in the meeting with the managers.
Wow.
Where you been?
Exactly.
Here's what I'm saying to you. But here's what I'm
No,
saying to you.
because when nobody
What I
applying,
didn't know
that's
was that
why.
HCM changed the process that you had to do the application.
Right.
But more importantly is I didn't know you all were having issues getting logins and all that other stuff to make the application. That's the part that I got the notification about yesterday. I made the phone call and they already took care of it. But you need to have your name on the list, so that when I send the list to them on Wednesday, it reflects that you all are gonna support summer school.
Okay, that's not an all call, because I hadn't heard that, what you just said.
Yeah,
No,
the-
no.
No, that you don't have to do the application, because I thought you still had to do the
So we'll
application.
revise it today.
Okay.
So when you guys get it, we'll revise it today. It's fine, still put your name on the list.
Okay, yeah, that's because I did the application.
What she say?
Yeah.
She know I wanna do it, that's all.
Did she say you still have to do that?
Listen to what she said, you guys. Alright. You're not gonna get paid $12. You're gonna get paid your base rate, your rate, okay, your hourly rate. If you want to support summer school, which I encourage you to do, right? If you wanna work, work. send an email or let your supervisor know so that when they send me the roster, for me to send it over to them to upload in the system, your name is in there and they code you properly. If you don't, and you support summer school, it's gonna take time for them to do your check, because they gotta go back in and process you as a driver to support summer school. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to prevent, okay?
So that piece of paper is a lead that you check whether you want to do it or not.
That's probably what they use to try to capture the information.
That's what they
fine.
do every year.
That's fine. I don't know I just told them I need them to get the information as soon as possible, because I wanna make sure that you all who are interested are able and capable to do what you need to do and get paid over summer.
So is
Okay.
the online application null and void?
No, it's not null and void, you're in the
Pretty much.
system, but I wanna do an extended, make sure that we cover those individuals who may or may not have done the application online.
So it's no.
So if you did it online, and an abundance of caution, put your name on the list as well. So that nobody gets missed if you're interested in doing it. There's only about 180 drivers who put their name on the list as of yesterday. And you need how many? About 500 to do it,
Exactly.
okay?
They won't get.
All I'm saying to you is,
That's why they.
just call your
went
supervisor and
next.
say, hey, I wanna be on the list, or whatever you need to do when you see them, just do that today for me. Yes, ma'am. 1 second, you all, so I can hear a question.
My question is, when we first, while back, DeKalb County used to do what they call the STEM.
Yes, ma'am.
Will that ever come back? Because my concern is that, some people stepped out and they're at their point, but what about the people who?
Just came in and working through.
Nah, who been here for like 13 years?
Who's been here but haven't stepped?
Yeah, but haven't stepped, yeah.
I can't get on her level.
That's true.
Can't get on who level?
Nah, leave that alone, don't even do that. She was talking about me. Alright, so here's the thing. The step increase, I'm glad you brought that up, that's part of the comp and class study. So what they're looking at is, as part of the salary structure, you go from a 1, 2, or 3, or whatever number of steps, similar to what they did with the teachers. And I've asked for that as well. If you can do that for teachers, and here's the other thing too. Teachers go and get degrees, and guess what? They get paid for the degrees and the certifications. Why don't drivers who go and get a certification get the same opportunity? So I'm arguing for all of that. Oh yeah, that's what we're arguing for, but it will be evaluated in the comp and class study. Alright? Uh-huh.
On the certification, are there different levels of training, like the certificate, like say you do certification for a driver or whatever, is that like 3, 4 weeks and then certification for director?
Yeah, they're different. It's custom for
Okay,
you.
my next question is it on is it a website?
That's what I was gonna
ask.
Is it a link here? Okay.
It's web-based, you can go, we'll have classes for you if you do better sitting in the
So
class.
the web is on
but you
that
can
paper,
do
right?
web. The web, no, this is the website of the certification we're doing through the National People Transportation, right? The document that we're gonna give you when you leave is the application to apply to be part of our process to get it. And it costs money, so what I'm trying to do is have the district use professional development dollars to help pay for something.
Okay, so my next question is, when you ask people about the certification, pretty much no one raised their hand. So would it be based on you get so many people in, say like if I apply and it's nobody but me in there, would they still allow me the training?
No, just because you apply doesn't mean you're guaranteed a spot if you don't fit the
Yeah, they
number.
got
You still have to go through the process.
You have to go
But
through the
here's the thing,
interview
it
and all
increases your
of that.
chances. If only 5 people apply, and I got 35 slots, guess what?
One of them.
If you meet the qualifications, you meet the qualifications.
But you still got the quality.
Right now, we budgeted about 35 slots. Now, my hope though, is that we can, no, it's just, this is a pilot, we're starting it now. And what I don't know is how many individuals are gonna be part of it. The other part is it's like $300 an individual course to do it. It's not cheap. So it's not we got 800 drivers that's going through it, because I'm not gonna have 800 drivers and only 20% of them actually wanna stick with it. Then what's gonna happen? I'm gonna get thrown under the bus because I'm trying to help support, but folks are not staying with it. Does that make sense? So those of you who are serious about it, come see me. If you're not serious about it, don't waste your time. Madam? You just need a high school diploma, GRE, 2 years of working with the district is what you need to do, and you'll go through, the application is real simple, and you go through an interview. And they'll ask you questions about what you wanna do, there'll be an interview process. There'll be a rubric that you'll be scored on, and it's not gonna be very difficult, but you need to be serious about it. If you're gonna do it, when you come in the interview, well, I'm thinking about doing it because I think it'd be pretty cool to do, don't waste my time. Oh, I have ambitions to be blah, 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 and I wanna do this, let's sit down and have that conversation.
Well,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Wayne, did you remember from 122, no nobody raised their hand, so you can make sure.
I got you. I'm taking
Child, we
pictures.
did raise our hand. We don't even
All
try.
right, we got these last three, and then we're gonna transition, so you guys can head out. Yes, ma'am. Yep, that's coming under the ERP. So I'm glad you brought that up as well.
All of these things was brought up at the board. All these things were brought up at the board.
Is the performance bonus coming back, is what you're asking?
We
Right,
asked about
so
all this.
two things. The first question she asked is on your, pay stubs, it does not currently itemize. We're currently deploying what they call an enterprise resource planning system, which is basically a database that houses all of our information for finance, human resources, your time and attendance and everything. When they do that, it'll have that capability in the reporting structure. That work should be done within the next year. They're doing it now, okay? It won't be the next school year, but it's gonna go live, I think, sometime in January. And at that point, they'll run pilots and we should be able to get the reports. And I'll get a copy so you can see what it looks like and get feedback.
Great.
The other question she asked is, does the performance, one-time performance for, what was it, attendance in accidents or something?
And a reward.
Attendance for the most part.
And a reward.
All right.
No
So
accidents.
part of what they did last year is they did HCM, it doesn't come out of operations. It comes out of our human capital management department. They did not have the ability to budget for it last year. That
Of
was
course,
the
they
issue.
never do.
So again, what I'm trying to do, if I have savings in the department, then I'm going to do it. You see what I'm saying? If I can, that's what I told you, if we can become more efficient and I can generate savings, it gives me the ability to do more things in my budget that I do control. Okay? It does. No, I agree. Yes, ma'am.
They wanna know what the program is for the 2 years, once they get certified and have their degree.
What
Would
degree?
it allow them to get more money into DeKalb County, or should they take their certification and go somewhere else and get more money?
So what I asked them to do is, right now, we're working with both legal and human capital management to, when they build out this step process, I'm asking them to include these certifications as part of that. So when you get paid, if you hit the certification, you'll step up and reach that expectation pay. But it's all gonna be contingent on what comes out of the conference class stuff. You see what I'm saying? So I'm working all of these at the same time in order to get us where we ultimately need to be at the end of the day. And if the district doesn't pay for it, then you do what you gotta do. My job is to help provide you with the resources to get the opportunity, is what I'm trying to do. My hope is that we can retain you, but that's the district, not me directly. And then I think you had a question as well.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback on the pay stubs, that was my main concern, the pay stubs.
Yes, ma'am.
You said they were working, but you don't
They've
have
been working on that crap for.
have to talk with the bus driver. What would be a,
Not seriously like they doing.
No, ma'am, it'll be across the
And they
board. The
should've been
district will have the ability to see an itemized pay
Not on getting
stub.
stuff.
And we have had some conversation about what it looks like.
Could have been our own software by now. All this stuff was brought up at the board last month.
No, yours is
We went to the
different.
board with all of these. But I ain't never heard anybody.
Correct, that's correct.
Not like
That's
I
correct.
had, not like I had heard about it this year. But it don't come
No,
up.
no, the ability, the capability to do it. One second, you all, so you can hear a question. Her question is, will we have the capability to do an itemized pay stub? And will it reflect what you need it to reflect based on your unique needs as a driver? Yes, it will. It will, but I don't have a copy of the report because they're building a system to be able to do that. The old system, the legacy system that we have, it would have cost about $80,000 to do it. They didn't want to do it now because the system is gonna be retired in the next couple of, in the next few years or whatnot, so they're gonna put it into the new one. Okay? Yeah, so, but you gotta do that for 800 people.
But I bet you
So,
they get.
but that's what they
itemized
said,
right
finance
now.
made that
They get one.
determination. All right, one last question and then we'll get ready to I'm sorry, 2 last questions and then we're done.
And you know what? You can get the itemized thing. All you have to do is go to what to the.
One second, you all.
The payment people, they'll itemize it for you. Cause I had to do that.
Is there in the near future, 5 to 10 years out, that it could be probable for outsourced drivers to come in or just transportation?
I got it. So what he's asking is the demographic shifts throughout the county is changing daily. And his question was, is there a possibility that with those shifts that drivers will be outsourced? Very, very unlikely. And here's why. Let me explain why. If you go to Fulton, if you go to Gwinnett, If you go to Sacramento, if you go to New York, everybody's doing what? Trying to find capable, competent, and qualified drivers.
That's why we
It is a
need to walk
national
those
epidemic
walk
right
out.
now
Yeah.
of drivers.
'Cause they
That's
ain't
why
got
we tell you,
enough.
the board has to do something to do what? Retain you.
We can tell y'all.
They gotta make a
We gotta
change.
do what we gotta
And you don't have enough outsourced companies that
They
you
need
work
us.
for, right?
And they
That's
ain't
gonna
finna
pay
find
you
no
what you need to
outsourced
work,
company that
because
can
it's
do
just
what
not
Shawna
there.
do
There's not
every
enough
day,
companies that
waiting
can
on
provide it.
Fulton
Because
County,
there's a shortage
Atlanta
of
bus. I
drivers
wanna
across
see
the
they
country,
do,
across
I
the
wanna
nation.
see them make that happen.
So no, I don't ever foresee them ever outsourcing
Especially with the
transportation, ever.
homeless kids.
Not at all. It's not gonna happen. I actually see that in the next 5 to 10 years, we're gonna have more parents driving their kids to school. I'm just being real about it.
Yeah, and they need to.
Let's just be real about it. I'm just telling you. That's what I think is gonna happen. We're gonna still have, legally as a district, we gotta provide transportation. But I believe because the numbers, I just had a conversation with the other COOs in our neighboring counties, and they are having the same issues that we're having. So when I talk about jumping ship, don't think the grass is greener on the other side, because they have some of the same struggles, if not worse.
Now,
than
we
what
wanna
have
stay
here.
home, we just want y'all
So
to
just be
treat us
thoughtful
right.
about that. Do your homework and do your research before you decide to make the transition.
Yeah.
All right? I just, you want to stand up and stand up and tell them? All right, yes, ma'am.
My question was, through the year, when they take our prorated payout, they take taxes out.
Okay.
When we get our pay in the summer, which is our prorated pay, is another set of taxes being taken out.
That's why you file
tax
exempt.
twice?
That's why you file exempt
Is
for the
it the
summer.
different pay periods? Because you
I
got
have
different,
no
you have
idea. All
different
I
things
know is
coming
my
out.
pay, it stops when I get my check, and it's stopped.
So-
The pay that was already supposed to be.
That's why we file exempt.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. So you have two different things. We get paid twice a month, right? One of them is for your health insurance, and you see all that in the taxes, health insurance. The second one is for your retirement fidelity, you do a fidelity contribution, or a personal TRS, right? So you need to watch it, because they're two different deductions. That's why some checks are higher than the other. Okay, so just, you wanna pay attention to that, correct, alright? I hope this is helpful for you. I hope this has been beneficial to you.
Yeah, it has
Alright?
been. Thank
Alright.
you.
Thank you again for what you do, I really appreciate it, thank you all, have a great day.
I